No one noticed Earth at first. Not because it was hidden, not because it was protected, but because statistically, it shouldn't have mattered. Among the trillions of stars cataloged by the Galactic Concord, Sol was an unremarkable system. Yellow star, rocky inner worlds, gas giants farther out. The kind of system automated probes pass through without slowing down. Life existed there, yes. Primitive, no FTL, no antimatter, no artificial gravity. The Concord marked it low priority and moved on. That was their first mistake. The second mistake came 3 years later, when the listening posts along Sector Blackwood began reporting gaps. Not destroyed stations, not damaged arrays. Gaps. Regions of space where telemetry simply stopped. At first, analysts blamed solar interference, then software corruption, then clerical error. Entire teams were reassigned, logs rechecked, backups restored. The data remained missing, and all missing vectors pointed to the same location. Solution. The emergency session of the Galactic Concord was called under Protocol Obsidian, a designation so rare that most counselors had only studied it in simulations. The Chamber of Stars darkened as 12 species took their places around the floating ring table. Light bent softly along its edges, reflecting off chitin, scale, synthetic skin, and energy forms barely held together by containment fields. High Arbiter Kael did not sit. He stood. That alone silenced the chamber. For 8 centuries, Kael began, his voice resonating through translation fields. No member species of the Concord has lost a deep space asset without explanation. A hologram ignited at the center of the chamber. Red markers bloomed across a star map, then vanished. These are not combat losses, Kael continued. No energy signatures, no debris fields, no distress calls. Counselor Sereth of the Lethari Collective leaned forward, bioluminescent veins pulsing in agitation. Are you suggesting piracy? Kael's gaze shifted slowly. No. The hologram zoomed inward. Sol appeared. A small yellow star. One blue-green world. Silence fell again. But this time, it was not procedural. It was instinctive. The first to speak was Admiral Vorn of the Axiom Fleets. A pre-FTL species cannot erase vessels rated for dimensional shear, he said flatly. It violates every known model. That is correct, replied Archivist Mind Tess 9, the Concord's oldest artificial intelligence. A new projection appeared, a recovered transmission, crackling, human voices, translated in real time, greater than confirm contact lost with object designation unknown 7, switching to passive tracking. Don't transmit. They're listening. The chamber erupted. That's impossible. They intercepted Concord channels? How do they know classification protocols? Kael raised one hand. They know because, he said quietly, they took our ships apart. The third mistake came when the Concord authorized a verification probe, not a fleet, not a weapon. A single observation craft, crewed by synthetics and shielded against every known detection method. It entered Sol on a vector that avoided planets, moons, and traffic lanes. It survived for 11 minutes. The final image it transmitted showed Earth, closer than any Concord vessel had ever been. The planet was surrounded by objects, thousands of them, not ships, not satellites, something else. They formed layers, interlocking, adaptive, moving, a shell. And then the signal cut. The realization did not strike the Concord all at once. It crept in, slowly, painfully. The humans had not rushed to the stars. They had waited. They had listened. They had learned. And while the galaxy debated protocols and threat indexes, Earth had done something no other species had ever attempted. They turned their homeworld into a fortress. High Arbiter Kale finally sat down. That, too, was unprecedented. "There will be no sanctions," he said. "No ultimatums, no displays of force." Several counselors protested. Kale ignored them. "We are no longer observing a developing species," he continued. "We are standing at the edge of something that has already finished preparing." The chamber lights dimmed further. "And whatever humanity is planning next," Kale concluded, "it does not require our permission." The conquered believed silence meant ignorance. Humans believed silence meant survival. 3 rotations after the failed verification probe, the Galactic Concord initiated a full-spectrum historical audit of Sol. Every photon ever recorded, every stray radio wave, every gravitational anomaly that brushed past their sensors. Archivist Mind Test-9 processed the data at speeds no biological intelligence could match, and still it hesitated. "Report," High Arbiter Kale commanded. Test-9's voice was slower than usual. "Earth's electromagnetic emissions declined in stages," it said. "Not randomly, intentionally." A holographic timeline unfolded. Human radio traffic spiked in the early centuries. Chaotic, noisy, inefficient. Then, it narrowed. "They reduced broadcast leakage," Test-9 continued. "Switched to tight beam communication, fiber-based networks, subsurface data routing." Counselor Sereth's bioluminescence dimmed. "They hid." "No," Test-9 replied. "They listened." The first alien signals reached Earth nearly 200 human years before official first contact. Primitive by Concord standards, but not ignored. Human astronomers logged anomalies, repeating pulses, unnatural spectral shifts, mathematically structured noise, patterns, always patterns. They did not respond. They recorded. They archived. They argued. And eventually, they agreed on something that reshaped their entire civilization. The universe was not empty, and it was not friendly. Deep beneath Earth's crust, beyond cities and oceans, humanity built vaults, not shelters, libraries. They cataloged alien behavior without ever seeing an alien. Flight paths, energy emissions, communication structures. They simulated invasions that never came. And in doing so, they discovered something the Concord never had: predictability. The chamber of the Concord had grown quiet again. Fear was no longer sharp. It was heavy. "What of their military development?" asked Admiral Vorn. Test-9 paused. "Human military expenditure declined publicly," it said. "Privately, it diversified." New images appeared. Facilities buried under ice, shipyards hidden inside asteroids, power signatures masked as natural phenomena. They avoided singular superweapons, Test-9 added. Instead, they focused on adaptability. Kale's voice was grim. "They prepared for everyone." "Yes," Test-9 confirmed, "and no one." The Concord's greatest error had been assumption. That advancement followed the same path for all species. Energy first, expansion second, defense last. Humans reversed it. Defense was first, always first. The captured ships, those that vanished without trace, had not been destroyed. That revelation came next. From a recovered data fragment, a schematic rendered in human notation, translated, annotated, improved. They disassembled conquered vessels down to component principles, Test-9 explained, not to replicate them, but to understand their weaknesses. Counselor Sereth recoiled. "Every species designs technology around its own limitations." "Yes," said Test-9. "Humans design around everyone else's." Then came the transmission. It arrived without warning. No encryption breach, no hacking trace. It simply appeared on every Concord channel simultaneously. The chamber lights dimmed automatically as the signal asserted priority. A human voice filled the hall. Calm, measured, unmistakably tired. Greater than Galactic Concord, we know you're afraid. That's reasonable. No threats, no demands, just certainty. You sent observers. We observed them back. The hologram shifted. A human figure stood in shadow, features obscured. You labeled us primitive because we stayed home. You mistook patience for weakness. A pause, deliberate. We are not expanding. We are not invading. Another pause, longer. We are making sure no one ever tries again. Several counselors spoke at once. What does that mean? Is this a declaration? Where are our people? The human voice returned. Greater than, your crews are alive. They are unharmed, and they will remain so, as long as you understand one thing. The shadowed figure stepped forward just enough for their eyes to catch the light. Earth is not asleep. Earth is watching. The transmission ended. For the first time since its founding, the Galactic Concord faced a question it had never needed to ask before. Not how strong is the other side, but what happens if we push them anyway? And somewhere beneath Earth's oceans, a human command node logged the event. Contact confirmed. Phase 2. Authorization pending. Fear does strange things to ancient civilizations. For the Galactic Concord, fear masqueraded as logic. The Emergency Council reconvened within a single cycle. Not all members attended. Some had already withdrawn their representatives, citing strategic uncertainty. Others stayed, too proud, too afraid, or too invested to look away. High Arbiter Kyle stood once more at the center of the Crystal Hall. The humans have issued no threat, he said carefully. No ultimatum, no expansion demand. Admiral Vorn's mandibles clicked in irritation. That is what frightens me. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia now whispered like hatchlings. Counselor Sareth finally spoke. They are controlling the narrative. They know restraint unnerves us more than aggression. Archivist Mind Test 9 projected a slow rotating image of Sewell. Human behavioral models indicate a doctrine unfamiliar to the Concord, it said. Explain, Kale demanded. They define lines, Test 9 replied. Boundaries not for negotiation, but for response. A pause. Crossing those boundaries does not invite diplomacy. It invites correction. The Concord had rules of war. Humans had limits. What are these lines? Asked Speaker Nala. Test 9 displayed fragments of intercepted human military doctrine. Translated, annotated, simplified. Civilian targets. Unacceptable planetary annihilation. Final response. First strike. On homeworld, irreversible consequences. Admiral Vorn stiffened. These are threats. No, Test 9 corrected. They are warnings. At the edge of conquered space, one civilization watched the proceedings with interest. The Karth Dominion had never joined the Concord. They believed restraint was weakness. Their fleets were old, vast, and brutal, built for conquest, not defense. When the human transmission reached them, their high strategist laughed. A species that hides underground and talks about boundaries, he sneered. They are afraid. His advisors hesitated. The Concord is unsettled, one warned. Perhaps we should observe longer. The high strategist waved a claw dismissively. No prey becomes dangerous by hiding. Orders were issued. A single task force, minimal force, enough to test. Human sensors detected the Karth fleet the moment it crossed the outer boundary of Sol. No alarms blared. No fleets launched. Instead, a quiet message propagated through Earth's command network. Line 1. Approaching. In an underground chamber, far from the surface, human commanders watched calmly. Admiral Reyes folded her hands. Confirm intent. AI analysis responded instantly. Trajectory. Aggressive weapon systems. Active communication. None. Reyes nodded once. Proceed with Protocol Gray? The Karth fleet never reached Earth. They never even saw it. Space folded. Not violently, not catastrophically. Just enough. Their lead ships found themselves elsewhere. No stars, no reference points, no signals, a pocket of engineered nothing. Within seconds, panic erupted across Karth channels. Weapons fired into emptiness, drives failed to engage. Then came the message, broadcast on all frequencies. Simple, human, greater than, you crossed the first line. This is your correction. One by one, Karth vessels vanished. Not destroyed, not exploding. Removed. The surviving ships were released moments later, flung back across interstellar space with surgical precision. No damage, no casualties, just humiliation. When news reached the Galactic Concord, the chamber froze. They let them go? Counselor Sareth whispered. They demonstrated capability, Test 9 replied, not intent. High Arbiter Kyle closed his eyes. They could have erased them. Yes, Test 9 agreed. They chose not to. Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes stood and turned away from the display. Log the event, she said quietly. The subordinate hesitated. What do we call it, ma'am? Reyes considered. Then, boundary enforcement. Far above, beyond detection, human deep space arrays activated long dormant systems. Not weapons. Archives. Maps. Paths that led outward. Humanity had not gone to the stars yet, but now, they were measuring how far they might need to go. The Galactic Concord had faced extinction before. Plagues, supernovas, rogue AI empires. They had survived every one of them, but never like this. Never while being watched. The emergency vote was called under sealed protocols. No recordings, no observers. Only the oldest members of the Concord were allowed to remain. High Arbiter Kyle stood before the council, his voice stripped of ceremony. We must assume the humans are capable of total annihilation. Admiral Vorn slammed a claw against the crystalline table. Then we strike first. Silence followed. Then, hesitation. Counselor Sareth spoke carefully. Strike what first? Earth was hidden beneath layers of defense. Human fleets had not been seen, but clearly existed. Their industry was decentralized, mobile, and adaptive. There is no single target, Sareth continued. No throne world, no command nexus. Archivist Mind, Test 9, projected another analysis. Human military doctrine emphasizes survivability over dominance. They do not gather power into symbols. Admiral Vorn snarled. Then we burn their colonies. Test 9 paused. Humans have no colonies. The chamber erupted. No colonies? No expansion? Impossible. Test 9 displayed stellar maps. Human presence was scattered. Temporary stations, modular habitats, arc structures drifting between stars. Nothing permanent, nothing sacred. They do not anchor themselves to places, Test 9 said. They anchor themselves to people. High Arbiter Kale felt something cold coil around his core. Then what do they protect? Test 9's answer was immediate. Each other. The Concord had built empires. Humans had built redundancy. A transmission request arrived. Not forced, not encrypted. Open, human. The chamber stiffened. They're calling us, Speaker Nala whispered. On whose authority? Admiral Vorn demanded. Kale straightened. Mine. The hologram activated. A human woman appeared. Gray hair, calm eyes, no uniform markings. She did not bow. She did not threaten. "My name is Director Elena Moore," she said evenly. "I speak for Earth. No titles, no grandeur, just a name." "You violated no treaties," Kale said carefully. "Why show restraint against the Karth?" Moore tilted her head slightly. "Because they crossed Line 1, she replied. "Not Line 3? Admiral Vorn bristled. "There are more?" Moore nodded. "Always." She raised a hand. Behind her, the image shifted. Data flowed. Stars dimmed. Ancient ruins appeared. Dead civilizations, long erased. "These," Moore said, "are species humanity never met." The council leaned forward. They expanded too fast, centralized power, built weapons without understanding consequence. Images changed again. Collapsed star systems, artificial singularities, biological extinction waves. "We studied them," Moore continued, "because they made the same mistakes we almost did." Kale swallowed. "Almost?" Moore's gaze hardened. Not angry, not proud, honest. "Humanity reached its Line 3 once. The chamber went still. She let that sit. We stood at the edge of annihilation, not from aliens, from ourselves." Admiral Vorn scoffed nervously. "And yet you survived." "Yes," Moore said, "because we stopped." Her eyes bored into the council. "Most species don't." A new image appeared. Earth. Scarred. Cities half buried. Oceans artificially stabilized. Atmospheric shields. "This is why we don't threaten," Moore said. "Why we don't expand blindly. Why we don't conquer." She leaned forward. "When you lose your cradle world once, you don't gamble with it again." Counselor Sareth whispered, "Lose." Moore nodded slowly. For 14 minutes, Earth died. The room froze. "Not destroyed," she clarified, "but broken beyond recovery. We rebuilt it, piece by piece." Admiral Vorn felt his confidence fracture. "You weaponized restraint," he said quietly. Moore smiled, not warmly. "No, we weaponized memory." She straightened. "You are afraid because you don't know what Phase 2 is." The council did not deny it. "Phase 2, Moore continued, "is preparation, not for conquest." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "It's for what comes after you." The words landed like a gravity well. "You're not the apex," she said calmly. "Neither are we." A pause. "We're just the first ones who learned to stop fighting ourselves in time." The transmission ended. No threats, no demands. Just a truth the galaxy had never considered. High Arbiter Kyle sank back into his seat. "They're not preparing for war," he whispered. "They're preparing for survival." Archivist Mind Test 9 concluded softly, "And that makes them far more dangerous than conquerors." Far beyond known space, human sensors flickered. Something ancient stirred. Something that had erased civilizations long before the Concord existed. And humanity had already noticed it. The signal came from beyond mapped space. Not faster than light, not subspace. It arrived the old way, at the speed of inevitability. Human early warning arrays activated across 12 sectors simultaneously. No alarms, no panic, just a silent status change. Condition black, confirmed on Earth. Beneath kilometers of reinforced mantle shielding, a single phrase echoed through command halls. "They're awake." At the Galactic Concord, Archivist Mind Test 9 detected the anomaly seconds later, then froze. Its quantum cores spun past safe limits. High Arbiter Kale noticed first. "Test 9, he said carefully. "Report." The machine hesitated. That alone was unprecedented. "What you are detecting," Test 9 finally said, "does not have a classification." A projection formed. Not a fleet, not a structure. A void. A region of space where stars were missing. Not destroyed, not dimmed. Removed. Admiral Vorn's voice trembled. A weapon? Test 9 corrected him. No. A pause. A process. The void expanded slowly. Too slowly for panic. Too steadily for hope. Every system it passed through vanished. No radiation, no debris, no survivors, just absence. Counselor Sareth whispered, "What is it?" The chamber lights dimmed. Test 9 spoke the words humanity had already named centuries ago. "We call it a harvest event." The council turned sharply. "You've seen this before?" Kale demanded. A human transmission request appeared, accepted automatically. Director Elena Moore returned. This time, she looked tired. "We didn't discover it," Moore said. "It found us." Images flooded the chamber. Ancient ruins, older than any Concord record. Civilizations erased mid-expansion. Dyson swarms cut cleanly in half. "We don't know who built it," Moore continued, "or what it is. But we know why it comes." Admiral Vorn leaned forward. "Why?" Moore met his gaze. Complexity? Silence. "The more centralized, powerful, and interconnected an empire becomes," she said, "the louder it is to the universe." She gestured to the void. "That thing doesn't hunt species. It hunts systems." Kale's breath slowed. "The Concord," Moore nodded, "is a beacon." Panic erupted. Emergency motions. Evacuation proposals. Weapons deployment. Moore let it happen, then raised her hand. "You can't fight it," she said calmly. "We tried." A new image appeared. Human fleets, vast beyond imagination, vanishing. Entire armadas erased between frames. "We lost," Moore said quietly. "Every time." Admiral Vorn slumped. "Then why are you still here?" Moore's voice hardened. "Because we learned." She changed the projection. Human infrastructure appeared. Scattered. Decentralized. Disconnected. No core. No throne. No capital. "No single failure point," Moore said. "No empire to erase." Kale's eyes widened. "You made yourselves quiet." Moore nodded. "We stopped shouting into the void." The void advanced again. Another system vanished. Closer now. The Concord trembled. "What do you want from us?" Kyle asked. Moore didn't hesitate. "Dismantle." The word hit like a collapse. "Break your empires," she continued. "Fragment your fleets. Erase your symbols of power." Admiral Vorn roared. "That's surrender." Moore shook her head. "No, that's survival." Kale stared at the spreading nothingness. "And if we refuse?" Moore's expression softened, just slightly. "Then humanity will survive without you." The implication was clear. They already planned for that outcome. Beyond the galaxy's edge, the void shifted, adjusted, as if listening, as if calculating. And for the first time since its awakening, it slowed. Human sensors updated. Condition? Black. Observed response. Humanity had been right. The universe noticed patterns, and humanity had learned how to break them. High Arbiter Kale lowered his head. "Call an emergency vote," he said quietly, "for dissolution." Admiral Vorn whispered, "History will remember this as the fall of the Concord." Kale looked into the void. "No," he replied. "It will remember who taught us how to live." Far away, deep beneath Earth's surface, a final protocol unlocked. Phase 3. Active. Not a weapon. Not an attack. A contingency. For when the universe itself decides to clean house. The dismantling of the Concord began without ceremony. No speeches, no flags lowered, just systems turning off. Trade nexuses went dark first. Mass relays powered down, one by one, severing ancient supply lines. Entire economies collapsed in hours, not from attack, from choice. Across the galaxy, reactions split along predictable lines. Some worlds complied immediately. They fractured their governments, dismantled centralized fleets, erased centuries of imperial identity. Their leaders wept, their people screamed, but they lived. Others refused. The Karth Dominion declared humanity's warning a deception, a myth designed to weaken us, their war sires proclaimed. They consolidated power, fortified borders, built bigger fleets, louder ones. The Void noticed. Human sensors registered the shift instantly. Condition black. Target acquired. The harvest event changed direction. It didn't rush. It didn't rage. It simply turned. In the Concord chamber, what remained of it, High Arbiter Kale watched the projections in silence. A Karth core system vanished. No explosion, no debris. A perfectly empty sphere where a civilization had existed moments before. Admiral Vorn closed his eyes. "They're gone," he whispered. "Yes," Archivist Mind Test 9 replied, "and forgotten. The Silent War had rules. Humanity had mapped them. Rule 1, the harvest does not negotiate. Rule 2, the harvest does not pursue individuals. Rule 3, the harvest follows patterns, not intentions." Moore's voice echoed in Kale's memory. Empires are patterns. Humanity moved quietly. They offered no ships, no weapons, only data, survival frameworks, decentralization protocols, how to disappear without dying. Some species accepted, some rejected it out of pride, some tried to cheat, keeping secret cores of power. They were erased next. The galaxy learned quickly. Civilizations shattered themselves into networks. Cultures rewrote their myths. Children grew up without ever hearing the word empire. But the Silent War wasn't only external. On Earth, resistance grew. Not everyone accepted Phase 3. Protests filled megacities. "You're letting them die. You're erasing who we are. This isn't humanity. It's fear." Director Moore watched the feeds without expression, then issued a single statement. "We are not choosing who lives. We are choosing who can." Human fleets remained hidden, but human scientists worked relentlessly, studying the void, listening, not to its signal, but to its absence. Then something unexpected happened. The harvest slowed again. It lingered near a fractured region of space, uncertain. Archivist Mind Test 9 processed the anomaly. "This has never occurred," it reported. Kyle leaned forward. "Why now?" Test 9 hesitated. "The galaxy is becoming irregular." Moore smiled faintly when informed. "It's confused," she said. "Predators always are, when the prey stops behaving predictably." For the first time in recorded history, the universe encountered resistance that did not fight, did not build, did not dominate. It encountered adaptation. At the edge of the void, human deep space arrays detected something else, a fluctuation, not expansion, not erasure, a reaction, condition, black, unknown response. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not defeated the ender of empires. They had made it hesitate. High Arbiter Kale stared at the star maps. "Is this victory?" he asked. Moore's reply came instantly. "No." A pause. "This is time." Far beyond perception, something ancient adjusted its calculus. The galaxy was no longer loud, no longer orderly, no longer worth the effort. And for now, that was enough. The universe did not celebrate. There were no victory songs, no monuments carved into asteroids, only silence, and the slow realization that survival had changed everything. The harvest withdrew, not fully, not permanently. It simply lost interest. Its advance faded into deep space, where even human sensors could no longer track it. For the first time in over 1,000,000 years, the galaxy breathed without knowing when it would be taken again. Civilizations counted what remained. Entire cultures were gone, erased so completely that no ruins marked their passing. Languages vanished. Histories ended mid-sentence. The galaxy became a place of ghosts. The conquered never reformed. There was no central authority left to rebuild it. No species dared concentrate power again. The lesson had been carved too deeply. Instead, the galaxy fractured into loose networks, trade circles, knowledge exchanges, cultural coalitions, small, resilient, hard to notice. On Earth, the cost hit differently. Humanity had survived, but it had changed how it saw itself. Children learned a new version of history, not one of conquest, not one of dominance, but one of restraint. Director Elaine Moore resigned 6 months after the harvest slowed. No ceremony, no speech. She returned to a quiet coastal city, far from command bunkers and decision rooms. When asked once, years later, if she regretted Phase 3, she answered simply, every day. High Arbiter Kale remained as a liaison between species, not a ruler, not a judge, a witness. He spent decades traveling fractured systems, listening to survivors tell the same question in different languages. Why us? Kale never had a satisfying answer, only an honest one. Because you existed loudly, in a universe that hunts noise. Humanity never claimed credit. They never revealed the full truth. The galaxy knew something had guided them, but not who, not how, not why. That secrecy was intentional. Heroes attract attention, survivors avoid it. Earth itself became quieter. No grand fleets, no expansionist dreams. Human ships traveled cautiously, anonymously. Human colonies were small, decentralized, deliberately unremarkable. Humanity chose obscurity over glory. And it worked. The universe ignored them. Yet deep in the archives of forgotten worlds, fragments of the old era survived. Stories, whispers, myths of a species that faced annihilation and chose humility instead of dominance. A species that did not win, but endured. One such fragment ended with a single recorded sentence, preserved by a dying civilization. They were not the strongest, they were not the oldest, but when the end came, they were the only ones willing to disappear in order to live. Far beyond the galaxy, something ancient recalculated. Its attention drifted elsewhere. There were louder places, easier prey. And humanity? Humanity watched the stars in silence, not with ambition, not with fear, but with understanding. Because now they knew the universe's oldest rule. Survival is not about being seen. It is about knowing when not to be.